Might ask all of you to please silence your phones so nothing is interrupted. Remember, this is a Zoom meeting also. So I'm Judy Glover. I'm going to be your announcer for the evening. And once I say my little piece, hopefully you won't have to hear from me again. Before I introduce the candidates, I want to give a big shout out to the nominating committee. They've done a phenomenal job. It was quite a task. And when you hear what they had to get through, it's pretty amazing. So we received more than 70 questions. Not that many duplicates, a lot were in a similar vein. We obviously can't get to all of those tonight. So we've chosen a variety and broad range that we think might serve all the different people that want to hear things. And I've asked the 4 candidates to be available for anybody who wants to email them directly to get their questions answered. That's all we can do. We just don't have 5 or 6 hours to sit and ask questions. Okay, so the ground rules. Again, as I said, this is a Zoom meeting. Please be as quiet as possible. No comments or applause until we're totally done. Please, it'll only make it hard for the Zoom people to hear, and everybody deserves to have their say for whatever reason. No questions will be accepted from the floor. Questions we pick, that's it. Each candidate has already drawn a playing card to determine who's going to go first for their opening statements. Danny will go first. He'll go right down the line and ending with Vince. They've also drawn a card to determine who gets the first question first. Stan will have the first question, and they will go on a rotating basis as to who gets each question first. Let's see. Each candidate will have an opportunity to make a 3-minute opening statement. At 2 minutes and 50 seconds, they will get a 10-second warning with that button. At 3 minutes, the bell will ring 2 or 3 times, and they will be told to stop. It will be cut off, and the next person will be told to begin their opening statement. When we get to the questions, it's 2 minutes. The same applies. At 1 minute and 50 seconds, they'll get a 10-second warning. At 2 minutes, the bell will ring again, and they'll be cut off, and the next person will move on to that question. The 2 moderators, we have Marty Goldman and Brian Vince. They are going to read the questions, one the first hour, one the second hour. Every candidate will have an opportunity to answer each question. And again, each question is for 2 minutes. We'll stop around 8, give or take some, for a 10-minute break. As soon as that 10 minutes is up, we're going to start again because we've got a lot of questions to get through. So I hope everybody can come back 10 minutes and get back to your seats. At the end of the Q&A period, each candidate will have an opportunity to present a 3-minute closing argument. Again, same process falls, 10-second warning. And at the end of 3 minutes, they'll be dinged and asked to stop. Then you can make applause, all the comments you want, booze, doesn't matter, jump up, down, whatever works for you. So anyway, thank you, everyone. And I'd like Marty Goldman to come in and start, sit here, and we get to go with our opening statement from Dan.
Mr. Dan Madison, you get to go first with your opening statement.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you guys all for coming out. This is a very important event for this community. You know, those of y'all, I hope that I have an opportunity to meet each and every one of you. It has been my personal purpose to do just that, so that, you know, running for the board last year, there were a lot of things going on for me personally. Losing my dad, I lost my mom 6 months later. A lot of you remember that when we went through, but the love for my community has not changed. My wife Susan's here with me tonight. Last year that was just not possible for her to be here. But you know, I just want to tell you a little bit about us. As of last Sunday, we have our 8th grandchild who just actually is living in the Bellamy house, just came home a couple of days ago. We've been in the community since 2013. We moved here in 2016, started construction on our home. I think Carla and I probably get to flip a coin who actually is the closest resident to the clubhouse. I'm directly across the street and she's just down the street. So we actually built our home here, bought our lot at the same time we built our home because we wanted to be a part of this community, and we feel that we very much are. You guys are our neighbors too. And, you know, with being property owners, whether you're a resident or whether you're a property owner, we all serve for the same goal, and that's to be a loving, caring community, for whatever age group you're in. The fact that when we built here, understanding the amenities that were offered by Oyster Harbour was a big deal. It also was an investment opportunity for all of us, whether you build a home or whether you bought property. And, you know, my goal is coming and running for the board is I'm not looking for any extra thing to do. I just love this community that much. And plus the fact that I'm a property owner, I want to make sure that we can ensure that the community is healthy and prosperous, that have the direction they really need moving forward. We want to make sure that we are focused on where the community is going to be 10 years from now, not just today. So those are important interests to me. We want to make sure that we have more of a business and a communication perspective moving forward, so that we can look at everything from the business perspective. And I'm sad to say, I don't think that's happened over the last 20 years, but it's imperative that it happens moving forward. Not to blame anyone for that. It's kept youth structure low, but now we're faced with new challenges moving forward. It's very important to all of us. Keeper of the bell is sounding.
Have 10 seconds.
You get 31.
Oh, 31 seconds.
Oh, I have 30 more seconds.
Okay.
Oh, well.
Larry May. Larry May.
Wait a minute, it's not yet, she's talking. Okay, I'm ready to go. Listen, I'd like to thank the nominating committee, the Walkwell Management Company, comms folks, and all the volunteers who made this evening happen. I get 3 minutes, I talk a lot, so this is going to sound a little scripted because I'm trying to get through some key points which are pertinent for me. So I'm going to go right into this. I'm not going to talk to specific issues. Instead, in my 3 minutes, I'm going to raise 3 points. I hope I have time. And I'm going to make 3 commitments to you, the property owners, and you, the board members, if I'm elected to this board. First one, I'm a big believer in information sharing. I mean, I think it's a critical element for any organization to be successful. I believe that has to work both ways. I think the information is absolutely necessary. And in that, there is a communication of what your feelings are, your thoughts are. It needs to be timely, it needs to be relevant, it needs to be ongoing all the time. Without that, we as property owners and we as board members cannot make informed decisions. So that's a very important piece to this. If you don't have it, if you're not continually updated on information, you're going to fill it with gossip, you're going to fill it with rumors, you're going to fill it with all the things that absolutely are not true, this and this information. So that's my point on that. To making a commitment on this, my commitment to you is if I'm elected, I'm going to work with the board members, Walkwell Management, and our comms folks, all those great people out there making this stuff work. And we're going to look at the whole communication process top to bottom. I think it needs to be looked at. I think there's places that we can make improvements, and that would be one of my desires. I think email pushes are not enough. Boards, comms, committee meetings, and things like that, where these things are captured, it's just not enough for those people who may not be living here, that may be geographically separated because they're lot owners or homeowners, maybe not here full time. Second point, the board speaks a lot of time, spends a lot of time and speaks often about making business decisions. That's absolutely true. I concur with that, and I think they've done a very good job with that. One of the things that I've always known is that because we are in the private sector, basically, we're actually an employee-owned business. I'll translate that as we are a property owner's owned business. Property owners in this community, irrespective of what role you are the investors and are the stockholders. There is a nuanced difference between those two. So in that same vein, we need to be cognizant of that. I will treat everybody out there from the 471 property owners out there the same. It doesn't matter if you have the biggest house or the smallest lot. To me, you pay the same dues and you have the same opportunity to be able to participate in this community's activities as any of the other folks. I'm going to, if elected to the board, try to focus as much as I can working with the other wonderful board members on inclusion and involvement. I really expect people to be able to do that. Our last one, apparently I've got 10 seconds left, is on the business plan, and I'm sure I'll get a chance to talk about that. Ad nauseam. Didn't make it.
I know I'm.
Oh, I used all my time though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Next up, Stan Goodson.
Good evening and thank you for coming. My wife and I bought property here in 2006. And we like the area, we liked it because it's actually a national maritime forest or preserve because of the wildlife and the animals and the trees and everything else. So we bought the property in 06. We received a copy of the CCRs, the bylaws and the art guidelines from the then management company. And we went through them and we read them and I weighed out everything I liked and everything I didn't like about the CCRs, what I could do, what I can't do and everything else. And it wound up being that I liked more and my wife liked more than what we can do than what we couldn't do, all right? My goal is to see that the integrity of Oyster Harbour is maintained and the community continues to flourish. And I feel that I have the energy and the enthusiasm to do that. The three biggest things that, and I said this last time when I ran for the board, the three biggest things that I push for is following rules and regulations. Since I've been on the board, I've made sure that the CCRs are followed, the bylaws are followed, and the art guidelines are finally being adhered to the way they're supposed to. Because the first 6 years that I was here, every once in a while you get a new update of the art guidelines and something to be changed, something to be taken out. And I'd ask, well, how was that done? And they always said, well, the ARC is autonomous. The ARC can do what they want. No, they can't. The ARC is a committee. The ARC is elected and appointed by the board. They can be dismissed at any time by the board. And it's in the ARC guidelines. And the lawyer, Adam, said when he read it, that if the ARC didn't leave that in the guidelines, then they could take and make changes as they see fit. But since they left it in the guidelines, and it says that from time to time, the ARC may modify or change its standards for design and construction with board approval. But so many boards just didn't bother paying attention to that. And there's been different things, a word left out here, a word left out there, that it's just not the way it's supposed to be. And those are the three things that I'm sticking for: CCRs, the bylaws, and the art guidelines. And everybody else knows me. I've been here since December 1st of 2010. So it'll be no 2012. It'll be 10 years this December. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I'm Vincent Bracken, current board president. Even though there are 5 members on the board, it's quickly apparent I became a focal point of decisions which were made by the entire board. I can say as president that this has been the most professional and cohesive board that I've ever had the pleasure to work with. Our decisions are based on a business approach. We discuss the issues at hand, consult with committees, rely upon experts, expert advice to guide the board in making the proper decision. 95% of our votes on board level this year were 5-0. This is unprecedented with an Oyster Harbour Board of Directors. Our responsibility has always been to protect your asset, which is Oyster Harbour. We are here, all 471 owners. This has been the most cohesive board, not only amongst each other, but in terms of taking guidance from our management company and working rather seamlessly with the ARC. Now, during this term's ending, the board, in working with the OH committees, have completed a long list of projects which include infrastructure repair, clubhouse renovation, interior renovation, restrapping pool furniture, improving landscaping maintenance practices, the pickleball court renovations and completion of such, along with new water park decking being installed by volunteers of Oyster Harbour, are occurring within the near future. In addition, the board has reduced or controlled future operating costs, which in turn has increased future reserve allocation. The board has approved the sale of 2 lots owned by Oyster Harbour, and we are aggressively pursuing delinquent accounts. To date, These two items produced a net gain of over $50,000, which we've added to our reserves. You were here tonight about new business approach, all inclusiveness, more transparency. These are some of the talking points that you'll hear tonight. They've been the talking points for the same, these have been the same talking points for years. It may sound different, but it's still the same. The next board will have to follow the CCNRs and be fiscally responsible. It has to be understood that decisions must be made upon three principles: fiduciary responsibility, real estate values, and insurance coverage. A very overused word that I'm not fond of is transparency. However, this board has been the most upfront, forthcoming, sending out constant email blasts on a weekly basis on hot topics and others. This board has not stopped any resident from reviewing a contract or an invoice. This practice was unheard of prior boards. In closing, this community cannot deny that this 5-person board did its job protecting your asset, protecting Oyster Harbour from lawsuits. We've also increased your reserves and upgraded your facility. Please do not lose sight of what this election is about: protecting your most valuable asset, Oyster Harbour.
Thank you all. We will now start with the questions. And the first question we'll start with Dan Goodzik, and then we'll go to Vince Bracken, then to Dan Matthews, and then to Larry Head. The first question is: Oyster Harbour has aging amenities and other assets. What is your view on financing and spending on the repair or replacement of these?
The problem we have is in years and years, we didn't raise the HOA fees. We left them at $395 or whatever number they were. So we don't have that much money in the reserves right now. The boat dock launch is going to cost us a lot of money. The streets have to be done. Now, the only way we can do the streets is if every lot owner in here is willing to take a $5,000 assessment. And whether you own 1 lot or 2 lots, it's $5,000 per lot, all right? Because the streets are not just this way, and they're bad, okay? From the heavy trucks coming in, the trailers coming in, dump trucks, and being driven over during the heat of the summer and making the potholes. When the builder built this place back in 2000, he got a sawmill company from South Carolina to come in and cut all the roads for him, with the option that he could take all the wood for nothing. So he came in with the machine that cuts the trees right into the base of the ground, loaded them in the truck, brought some sand in, threw some sand on top of the stumps, put some asphalt on top of it. 20 years later, all those bumps out there, they're rotting stumps. So you're not going to come in here with an asphalt company and just dig up the asphalt, put down new RCA, and then put new asphalt over it. You've got areas that are caving in under there, and it's going to be rotting stumps for over 21 years. As far as the other amenities, yes, we could do more. The children's swing set is a big thing of mine. All right. It says in CCR, you can't do away with anything. I want to get that back in, but I want to get it back in over here, not over there. And as far as maintaining the amenities, we have to do that.
Marty, remind Peter, repeating the question.
I will certainly repeat it. Oyster Harbour has aging amenities and other assets. What is your view on financing and spending on repair or replacement of these?
Well, right now, Oyster Harbour is in a strong financial position. We have $1.1 million in our reserves, which is very good compared to many other communities. But the amount of work that needs to be done within Oyster Harbour will deplete that account quicker. FPC and the board, we do work closely together. FPC has asked for a reserve study, an updated reserve study, which the board has approved. Now, what we'll do is prioritize what needs to be done. And that does change over time, but our main priority right now is getting this boat ramp back open as a temporary repair. We are going to have to look where we're going to find the money as we go forward. I don't know how many years we have, but that is going to be our top priority, and it's going to absorb much of our reserve account Plus, we may have to get financing on the outside, which would be difficult because of the way our CCNR is structured. We have to ask the community. And you saw what happened in our last survey that went out when it came to the boat ramp. To repair, not a replacement. So those are the, some of the things we're gonna look at. Yes, the roads are bad, and they're gonna continue to get bad. We've got 21 new homes coming in here. We're gonna have more construction vehicles coming across. We're not gonna be able to do it all. We're gonna have to do sections. We're gonna have to do a little piece here, a little piece there. Eagle Crest is bad. So yeah, working with FPC, working with the structural grounds, working with boats and docks, that's what we need to do. And we have had a really good relationship this year with our committees as we're moving forward. So that is going to be the major challenge as we go ahead in the next 3 to 5 years.
Question
I'm good.
is, Oyster Harbour has aging amenities and other assets. What is your view on financing spending on repair or replacement of these?
You know, obviously financial responsibility for the community moving forward is huge. The infrastructure of the community is in dire straits. Because I'm running for the board and because I love this community, I felt it was important to all of you to bring you the right information. We've gone back and done some studies on the roads, of how they were constructed originally. There's 6 inches of ABC stone that were put under these. They weren't just put over slant. There's 1.5 inches of asphalt that's over. I've had a large paving contractor come in and review the roads of this facility. I've had him giving me the estimates of what he thinks it is. He doesn't see the degradation of stuff and the concerns that is expressed. He, you know, his words were, we can never totally know what's going on until we investigate. But we've got estimates of somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.5 to $1.6 million for the pave and resurface 1.5 inches asphalt over all the 10 miles of the community. That's not to happen right away. We can do that in phases. We can do this in a business way. It's not the place where we've got to look at you as the homeowner and say, now you're going to have assessments. That's not the answer. It may be the answer long term, but right now that's not it. The whole goal with us is to provide healthy growth, healthy business looking on the amenities, and provide a way to hopefully look at the boat ramp, look at everything that we've got in World Parks, look at the things that we have as a community, and start looking at it as a business instead of just trying to throw things at it. We have got responsibility that every property owner here to be able to take what we have and find a financial way that works for us moving forward, with a financial plan that works moving forward, and not just saying that we're going to do what we've done in the past. Not condemning anyone. Someone trying to keep views low was an answer, but moving forward with responsibility is what we have to do.
Larry, the question is, Oyster Harbour has aging amenities and other assets. What is your view on financing and spending on the repair or replacement of these?
Okay, thank you. My number 3 point that I didn't make was communities 20 years old, roads, amenities, common areas, those things are showing age. We've never had a cogent plan to address things into our out years since during the 20-year period of time. We can approach this from an ad hoc perspective, using reserves or using whatever assessments individually. But from a business perspective and a long-term perspective and a community perspective, we need to look at it from 0 to 5, 10 to 15 years and look at all the specific areas to be involved. When you build a strategic plan, you bring in not only the board members, but experts in the community. We got a ton of them here. You bring them in and you basically do a baseline of where you are today. You look at all of those pieces, from the roads to the amenities, and say, here's our list of things. Here is our current status, working with the communities or the committees who are the backbone of this community, as far as I'm concerned. And then you lay out a cogent plan with everybody's involvement, and you can brief this to the community. And you say, here's what our plans are. And then you build this plan. It may take us 6 months, 10 months, I don't know, whatever it's going to take us. But you're looking at the out years, and then you look at the appropriate financing to address each one of those, because it's a rank order prioritization of expenditures of money. We're not talking about using reserves. We're not talking about assessments. You don't do that until you've got your plan laid out. This is number 1 priority. This is number 2 priority. This is number 3. And then you loop in the community, property owners and homeowners, and you lay it out. And we as a community will decide on this. We do this for every amenity or every shortfall that we find in our community. If we do not approach this as a business perspective, we're going to be in trouble. $1 million in reserve ain't nothing. When we're building them, basically we're paving the street from our front gate to Shalom. And let's face it, these things are gonna have to be repaired and replaced. That's everything all the way down to the trailheads, the streets, the whatever that.
Question number 2, we'll start with Vince Bradley. Okay.
I had 10 seconds left. Oh, he's not, so.
Due to the fact that we are not a retirement community, there have been multiple requests from residents with conflicting work schedules about adjusting the time the board of directors meetings are held. What do you propose to do to enable these residents the ability to attend meetings and become more aware of community issues?
I'm not opposed to changing the times of our meetings. That's first of all. What we can do is have a meeting, one meeting during the afternoon, one meeting at night. Alternate to give the community an opportunity to come in and voice their concerns, questions, and so on. Having a meeting every month, I think is not realistic. I think should be 4 to 6 meetings per year, including your annual meeting. But once again, I'm not opposed to changing the times, and that's a board decision. New board comes in, they can make that decision. And that's what we usually do. The first meeting we have is set up the monthly meetings.
So, that's it. More hands. Okay.
Gotta reset the
I'm ready,
clock.
I'm ready. Okay, well, she was figuring out her phone. Due to the fact that we are not a retirement community, there have been multiple requests from residents with conflicting work schedules about adjusting the time the board of directors meetings are held. What do you propose to do to enable these residents the ability to attend meetings and become more aware of community issues?
Biggest truth I can tell you tonight, and please hear me, is if you entrust me to represent you on the board, that you will be talked with, things and issues will be discussed, and the community will rule this place where we are. There is transparency. You're going to hear it over and over again, but it's got to be real. It's got to be to the place that we reach out to each and every one of you as often as we can and hear your voice in the community. It's not a decision-making body that's sitting over here to run government over you. It's an entrusted position to listen to what the community says. And that means opening the board up to each and every one based on the time that you say work. If I'm able to do that for you, that's a promise going forward that we will absolutely, if it's 5 o'clock, if it's 7 o'clock, or whatever that meeting needs to do, I don't want anybody to ever feel like decisions are being made without your input. Ever.
Right. Larry, the question is, due to the fact that we are not a retirement community, there have been multiple requests from residents with conflicting work schedules about adjusting the time the board of directors meetings are held. What do you propose to do to enable these residents the ability to attend meetings and become more aware of community issues?
Okay, thank you. I'm all for moving the meeting times to the afternoon, evening hours to accommodate as many working people as possible. We have both retired people early in their careers, and people mid-careers. Our responsibility is to the property owners of this community. And I think even meetings, at least initially, would be a good start toward trying to soothe that issue of sort of, you're not part of us, if you can't make it 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's part of our problem, a little bit of the division. I think that needs to be dealt with. I'm also a big believer in the use of technology. I think we can go a long way with improving working with Bert, Chris, and the people on the technology side and our property management company. We need to start using technology a whole lot more. Zoom is only one aspect of that. There's a lot of things talking with Chris over here that you do in the corporate world that allows people to hear, participate, see, documents are posted, you can interact with this. We're basically still in the 19th century with our technology and how we use it in this community. I'll get into other issues later, so I'm sure questions come up, but I'm all for it. I'm here to represent all 471 people out there. My next door neighbor lives in South Dakota. Okay, if she wants to be able to participate in this, if she can't participate in real time, she should be able to participate in delayed time. It's doable, we just need to act on it. That's my word for transparency, we just need to get it out there and act on it. It's not a cliche, it's not a buzzword, I'm talking actions with things that need to be done. Period. Done. I yield back my time.
Dan, would you like me to read the question?
Yeah, just. hit it right here.
Due to the fact that we are not a retirement community, there have been multiple requests from residents with conflicting work schedules about adjusting the time the board of directors meetings are held. What do you propose to do to enable these residents the ability to attend meetings and become more aware of community issues?
All right. As far as transparency goes, it went out the window here 4 years ago. Before I was on the board, because they stopped doing away with monthly meetings, every single month having a meeting on third Thursday of every month. We went to every other month. And that just delayed ratification of the minutes from the last month and ratification and everything else. As far as meeting it in the evening, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever will work for anybody, I'm in favor of that. I'll go along with it, all right? But transparency, you've got to have a meeting every month. And when I became a board member in 19, I asked the board, can we go back to once a month? And it never happened. We stayed at every other month. And as far as the management company is concerned, they told us one time, you don't even have to have more than one meeting a year. You can have your annual meeting, your election, vote on the budget, and that's all you need. And I said, yeah, one meeting a year, and I'd drive down the street and have rocks thrown at me. What are you kidding me? But I'm in favor of a meeting every month. And there used to be every month on Thursday, the board would meet at 9 o'clock, have a workshop, break at lunchtime, come back at 1. At 1 o'clock, the rest of the people that live here would come in, and by 2:30, you were home. But if you want to have it later for people that are working, I'm in favor of that. But we got to go back to once a month meetings, because it takes too long for the minutes to be posted on the website for you to read them. The minutes for the January meeting get voted on, they sit there in February, in March, they get ratified, then they get posted. So somebody that's not here and not coming to a meeting and doesn't know what's going on, they're waiting 2 months to see the minutes. That's it.
Vince?
Yes.
Oh, that's all. So now we're starting, I'm sorry. With Dan, new question. How would you address and make decisions on issues that the community is divided on to avoid further division?
Well, the community has to speak. The reality is, everyone's not gonna always agree. But everyone has a right to be heard. And the responsibility of being entrusted to represent you on the board of directors, to me, says that I reach out to the majority of the community as best I can, and the property owners as best I can, and let everyone weigh in. And that it's not about my decision. It's about your decision. I have to listen to what's being said and then try to make the best decision for the community and the property owners that I possibly can. It's not going to always be the most popular decision. There's always going to be confidential meetings that have to happen that are discussing financial things to do with property owners. But 95% of the business that goes on from the board should come from you, the property owners and the residents. I yield my time.
Larry, how would you address and make decisions on issues that the community is divided on to avoid further division?
I think that's a very excellent question. First off, I think inclusion is one of the big things that would prevent that from the get-go. If you're sharing the information, if you're keeping people informed on whatever the hot topic is relative to the community, they're much more informed, they're up to date, it's current. They're much more read into it, easier to reach out to them and deal with them rather than just keeping them off to the side, letting them know what's going to happen 2 or 3 weeks ago or whatever. You really need to be current in all of that. And you need to include people. When I talked about the strat plan, when I talked about looking at whatever the big ticket item is that's bothering people within the community, I'm talking about pulling them into the process of determining what the outcome of the answer is going to be. I'm not talking as a board member, I'm going to use whatever I feel like is my own personal perspective or maybe a narrow perspective and make a decision on it. And then here you go. I'm talking about inclusion during the decision-making process with that. I'm real big in consensus building, and you do that before you make a final decision. That's going to be the key to all this. It's inclusion, it's empowerment, but it's also a responsibility for all the property owners both within this room and within the sound of my voice. It's okay to say that. It's all buzzwords until we come up with big ticket issues and stuff that have to be faced. That means you and your expertise and your time are going to be part of the solution set. That's the only thing that's going to eliminate divisions here. If we try to act as an inclusive community, not a separated community. And it's inclusion, it's empowerment, and it's having an active voice in the decisions that the board are made for the finalized and for the ratified. And you're back my time.
Stan, question is, how would you address and make decisions on issues that the community is divided on to avoid further division?
Again, I'm going back to transparency and I'm going back to having a board meeting once a month. Somebody wants to know what's going on, whether it's a nighttime meeting or daytime meeting, come down. We'll discuss it. You got your open forum. You can raise your hand, talk about it, and we can tell you what we're thinking about doing. But that's the only way it's going to be done. But I agree that, you know, we have to involve in big events, you know, big money objects that the community has to be involved in. You know, they just can't just say, we're gonna go spend X amount of dollars and do this and do that. But there's certain things that the board is responsible for as far as the amenities and the upkeep and the maintenance on them. And that, you know, like might be 10,000, might be 12,000, you know, it might, as long as it's not a phenomenal amount of money, you know, like the roads or the dock over here, something like that. But again, let's have monthly meetings. Come, say your speech. Tell us what you're concerned about. Even if you don't get the answer you want to hear, but at least tell us what you want to, you know, what your concerns are. I yield.
Vince, the question is, how would you address and make decisions on issues that the community is divided on to avoid further division?
Okay. I'll be very honest. As an HOA president, one board member of 5, it will be impossible to make everyone happy in an HOA. I don't think there's any board that could do that, because you're always going to have 2 sides to an issue. We know what our issues have been this year at Oyster Harbour, in the fishing policy, and it has been the boat ramp. We've given a lot of information as a board, as much as we possibly can, especially with the fishing policy. We try to have people understand what has happened. But it's something ingrained that makes it very difficult to understand if you really want it. But as a board member, the 3 things we look at, and I've said this in the beginning, is our responsibility, fiduciary responsibility, our responsibility to protect your asset. That's what I think Larry and Dan will have to understand if they become board members. You're not going to please everybody. They will come after you. We've seen that this year. And this board, as I've said, is a very good board. Best I've worked with. But we are trying to protect 471 residents. We will not make everyone happy with our decision, but it's best for the entire community.
Okay, Larry, next question is, how do you plan on being an effective communicator within the community?
Another excellent question. I think using formal and informal communication is the best way. I think having more working with the board members, the remaining board members, looking at the schedule for those meetings, having access to more people. I think using technology again on our side, I think it can be much more interactive. I think doing more than just sending email blasts out. I think there's other opportunities for us to pursue. The idea of questionnaires, the idea of involvement, of forums, working with the committees themselves. So we've got like 12 or 13 committees in this community, and all of them are doing outstanding jobs. We could actually highlight some of those committee meetings during some of our board meetings. And I realize this is a little much, but why not showcase them in the work they're doing? Bring in those people out there that are doing the work. Let's present them in forums, and let's talk about that. It's all about inclusion and keeping people talking to where you're actually communicating in a productive way. That's pretty much what I can say, that I'm a big advocate of technology. I think we're missing out on just by sending emails and blasts and posting things to the website. I would propose that we actually come up with a hot topics page on our webpage, more than just the one there, but actually it would be someplace where the committees and where the board members to keep people current to actually put live information on live, so relevant information, even on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis. It has something to do with the program. Talk to my boss over there in that capacity, Bruce, and we actually get updates going in concert with the liaison themselves. There's ways that we can loop in people and ways that we can communicate with this time. So I'm done.
Stan, the question is, how do you plan on being an effective communicator within the community?
Well, again, with the emails and talking to people that are in the community is one thing, but we have a lot of people that live in here or just own property in here that they don't read the minutes of the board meeting, minutes of the board meetings. They don't read the president's report. If you read the president's report or you read the board minute meetings, you'll be up to date on what's going on and what the board is doing. Just because you're not sitting there doesn't mean you can't go home and, you live in South Dakota, you can't go online and see what it is. But in order to stay current, you got to go again, and I repeat myself, every month you need a board meeting so you can communicate. And like Larry said, technology, we could do a lot more with that. But there's a lot of people in here that don't read the board, the board minute meetings, and they don't read the president's report. So, and by going every other month, it's almost 2 months before they find anything out.
Vince, the question is, how do you plan on being an effective communicator within the community?
Well, I can start off by saying I've devoted about 30 hours a week since I've been on the board to Oyster Harbour. I can say that the rest of the board also puts a tremendous amount of time into what we do. We do send out a lot of emails. We do send out whatever the committees want us to put out. And I would love to see the committees take initiative and send more material out. But it starts when you become a resident of Oyster Harbour. It's important that new residents read the CCNR. It's important that you read the bylaw, understand what Oyster Harbour is, understand there are regulations, covenants, conditions that we all have to follow. That would help tremendously, because I do feel a lot of new residents coming in don't understand how an HOA works. But I can say we do put out a lot of communications. I'm not going to argue with Larry or Dan about sending out more electronic information. Hey, that's great. I have no problem. We can also do text. We can text information out. There's a lot of different ways we do it. Have we reached that point yet? No. But all of our committee members, Bert, Carla, they put a tremendous amount of work into what they do, along with the rest of the committees. We are volunteers. We try. And we're not going to succeed on every level. But we need help from everybody to understand what we are as an HOA.
Dan, Question is, how do you plan on being an effective communicator within the community?
Listen a lot. Listen a lot to my neighbors, whether you live here or whether you're a property owner. Technology is huge because we have more people that are property owners than we do residents. They have just as much say as anyone in this room. And because of that, emails are important. Communications are important. Even phone calls, believe it or not, as antiquated as that may sound, are still important. To me, communications, a lot of levels, email is one of them. But having decisions made before anybody gets to have any input is never going to be the answer. And the communication's got to be upfront. It's got to be with everyone that's property owner or resident before whatever happens. And my commitment is to do just that. That we reach out to each and every property owner and resident and try to open a dialogue, and I can tell you I'm an open book. It may not always be what you want to hear, but it'll be honest. It'll be the best listening I can do. And it won't be my opinion, it'll be property owners and residents.
Stan, the question is, do you think residents should have a say in future amenities?
My question? Yeah,
Yes, Gil.
yeah, well, it's in the bylaws. The bylaws are written by the association. You people out there have the power, board doesn't. And if you read the bylaws, it'll tell you right in the bylaws that you have the power, all right? And, what was that again?
Question is, do you think residents should have a say in future amenities?
Yes, they should, definitely. And it's written in the CCRs that the board cannot do away, alter, or do away with any amenity that we have here without permission from the association. The association is the people that tells us, well, you have to do away with the boat ramp, or you have to do away with this, or you have to do away with that. All right? But any future amenities that you might consider putting in here, like, I don't know, whatever, basketball court or something, I have no idea. That should be decided upon by the association, not just the 5 members that are on the board, because we're spending your money. So I do agree with that the membership should have, and like I said, it's in the bylaws that you people have the power. The bylaws that basically tell us what we can do in the CCRs. But it's the bylaws that the residents are in control of. So if you want to read it, read it.
Vince, the question is, do you think residents should have a say in future amenities?
Yes, without a doubt. I think we did a little bit of that this year already with our survey that we sent out about the program. And what the community wanted to do, whether repair, replace, or eliminate. That shows that we are talking to the community and getting information from you. Along with the other amenities, look, if it's come to clubhouse renovation, such as we've done, that doesn't need community approval. That's just minor. But spending your money will need your approval, without a doubt. I disagree with what Butch said with amenities. The board does, believe it or not. I know a lot of people don't like it. Let's be honest here. The board can eliminate an amenity. Simple. It was part of that survey we sent out. I know it's not something you want to hear, but that's broad power that the board does have. Doesn't mean it's going to act. But it has to be put out to be understood. But I agree that the residents, owners should be part of any discussion when it comes to amenity.
Dan, the question is, do you think residents should have say in future amenities?
I think the residents should have total say in future amenities. Not just some, all. If we're spending $30,000 of your money, it's your money. There should be a consensus of how the community feels about each and everything. Hey, I'm gonna have to quote the Stan, read the bylaws. I hope I've read the bylaws over and over and over again, and it does plainly state that the board has no authority to remove the board, period. You bought with an understanding of what the amenity was when you built in here with your property owner. To take an amenity away from this community is just wrong. And I want to tell you the thing that I hear the most is that the HOA is a governing board. That's just not so. You guys can, and the property owners can remove this board with 30% of the people in this community. It's gone. It's over. So the power struggle that's going on for an HOA, you gotta understand, this is about proper representation and being trusted to do that. I'm not sitting up here making the decisions. You've got to tell the board member what to do. So to think that the HOA is sitting in a mighty position, that's just not right. It's about listening to the homeowners and the property.
Larry, the question is, do you think residents should have say in future amenities?
Absolutely. Your dues pay for those amenities. It's the board's responsibility to make sure that they're maintained, kept up, and accessible according to the CCRs for all residents and their guests. And I think it's our responsibility, if we're elected to the board, to make sure that continues to be the case. Pretty much as simple as that. We need to make sure that all amenities are available because there's what, 110, 120 homes in this community, and we're set up for 470. Well, by golly, there's a big difference there. And there's a lot of people wanting to come in here and build. And they want to become part of this because they're trying to escape to a place where it's very nice from where they come from, which not necessarily is so nice. And they're trying to get away from all the hectic lifestyles and all those areas out there. This is their haven, this is their harbor. And I think it would be unfair to them to say that when you get there, all those pretty pictures on the website have gone away. And now we're 2 or 3 less amenities and so on. This one doesn't look hardly the same. We have responsibilities as property owners, the elected board. I know all of the board members are actually willing to do the right thing. There's not anything malicious here, I understand that. But the amenities are paramount to the future of our community. And I'll do everything if I'm elected to the board to maintain them, make sure they're protected, make sure they're repaired, and or replacement when that comes in. They're just key to our community. Done.
Vince, if you had one project you'd like to complete in our community, not counting the ongoing projects, what would it be?
Ongoing projects. Well, we know we want boat ramps. We know that,
Not including.
not included. Infrastructure. We've done a great job to this point. Structure and ground has done a great job replacing our infrastructure. We need to continue. That's our arteries. That's important to drain this community. We have other projects, and I would like to see upgrade the clubhouse a little bit more. But once again, we have a small pot of money. We can spend very, very quickly. So I would take infrastructure first, meaning your drainage areas, your underground pipes, because you can't do your roads until you do those. I know Dan was talking about road repair and so on. But once again, you fix your infrastructure first, then do your roads. That's the way it's got to be.
And if you had one project you'd like to complete in our community, not counting the ongoing projects, what would it be?
Well, if I gotta pick one, to me, roads is part of infrastructure. All the drainage and everything is important. It maintains the infrastructure of the road system. But I would tell you there's another one that to me is also important. That's part of the beauty of this community. Ponds. The liners in the ponds are 20 years old as well. Those liners have a 20-year life cycle. So not only are we looking at roads, we're looking at all kinds of things evolving for this community. So you've got to look at, where are the ponds? What is happening with the ponds? What is happening with the maintenance of those things? What is happening with the trails with those things? So I would just tell you that the amenities moving forward would be the focus. We're working on some, but the main goal that I would have to tell you right now would have to be the roads.
Larry, if you had one project you'd like to complete in our community, not counting the ongoing projects, what would it be?
If I go back to my strategic plan, which lays out all of the different things that we've talked about, and we look at them from a 5 and 10-year perspective, you're going to find everything that could be a potential project in there. But picking one is probably the #1 priority at this point. It would be the road system. There was an impact study done on the road system. Some of you will probably remember that in 2014, where people came in, they did an assessment of our road system, and it's actually posted to our website. 2014 road study, you'll find it on our website. Look at that and look at the areas identified that were areas of need. Look at the pictures done, basically 55 pages of information that were very good. It was assessed at the time by the then board, and they set it aside because there weren't a whole lot of problems with it as I went through it, as I skimmed this. If you take that same 55-page document now, get in the golf cart and drive down Eagle Crest, you won't be able to read it. You'll have to go see the dentist when you're done. So let's face it, okay? So roads is the #1 priority. I think it can be done in a rank order perspective, just as we talked about the strategic plan. It doesn't have to be all done at once based on what Danny was saying, and I believe him. I think we need to look at this not concurrently, not end to end, but we need to look at the big picture, step back, and look to see what areas we can address at that time. Remember, we have to develop a financial plan to address all of these specifics. That's part of what a strat plan does. For all of you project managers out there and people who work in business, you understand this. If you're a small business or a large business owner, you understand this. You're not dealing with this, that, and that piecemeal. So that's what I'm advocating. To answer your question, road system.
Stan, if you had one project you'd like to complete in our community, not counting the ongoing projects, what would it be?
The roads have to be done, but before you can do the roads, we are responsible to DEQ for stormwater runoff. All right, the swales in this place haven't been touched in 20 years. Maybe 2 or 3 of them have. We have 52 crossover pipes that go under the roads here, in the 10-mile area, whatever it is. It's an inlet on one side and outlet on the other. They are in horrific shape. Out of the 52, the S&G committee went around and did a report on grading them 3, 2, and 1. 3 being the worst, 2, and then 1. Out of 52 swale crossover pipes, 27 of them are. So where's our stormwater going? And if DEQ comes in here and goes around and checks these swales and the water isn't draining to where it's supposed to go, you're going to get a fine. It's as simple as that. So besides the roads, the swales, stormwater runoff has to be addressed. And there are many, many areas. And I've gotten quotes so far anywhere from $700 to $2,200, depending on how big the inlet is, the outlet is, or how clogged up the pipe is, if it has to be sucked out. We had to change the pipe across the street. It goes from the fence down to where the double gates come into the boat storage area over there, the boat area, because it was 6-inch pipe and it was perforated. It had holes in it, and naturally the tree roots over 20-some years grew, and where the tree roots grow, they go to water. It clogged. I got pictures of it. They clogged that pipe up solid. So it would be stormwater.
Dan, what do you feel is the most important issue facing Oyster Harbour and its residents?
Giving the community back. We have to find a way to heal, first of all, because when we don't listen, people get anxious over not being heard. So when I say give you your community back, it's the ability to let you know that you're being heard. And that the board of directors is an trusted group to act for you based on the direction that you give that board member. And it's up to each and every one of the 5 board members to keep that communication line open, whether it's through technology or one-on-one. And to me, that's probably the biggest thing we've got to deal with moving forward.
Larry, what do you feel is the most important issue facing Oyster Harbour and its residents?
I think it's the feeling of exclusion and not being able to have an impact on board decisions. In the board meetings, you're correct. We are given a chance to 3 minutes after a board meeting where the applications have occurred and been announced. We get a chance to say 3 minutes of what it is that we're thinking of. But there's no recourse to go back to change that decision. At least that's the impression that many have. At least that's what I have. But that said, I think one approach would be before the decisions are ratified, if it's a major item affecting this community, affecting the property owners, it should be better vetted with the community itself, and the people are allowed to present their views in advance of any kind of final decision made. It can be argued that that has happened. It can also be argued that it hasn't. If it's a big ticket item and it's going to further divide this community, I think due diligence is going to require a whole lot more effort in figuring out what the correct answer is going to be. That said, I think working groups and bringing in people who are representative of not just one aspect, but several aspects need to be helping to figure out what the answer is. We picked one particular item, and it's probably going to come up in a question as it relates to one of the latest most contentious topics. If I were a member on the board and that question came in, I would say, let's take a look at all the people, let's say, that live in this particular area, and let's get examples all over the community. If it's one specific area, let's get examples, get people coming in to give their opinion, whether they want to. We want to have open forums where we want to do random checks, or rather random selections. We go around and we ask questions, skirting the issue with the issue. But that said, too, we need to have more opportunity for all the people that live in these areas to have a say. Yeah, 10 seconds. It sounds like a bell. I felt like I'm boxing again. So anyway. There you go, the corner. Yeah. Anyway, I've done now. So. Yeah, on the ropes.
Stan, what do you feel is the most important issue facing Oyster Harbour and its residents?
Communication. We've got to open up the communication line, and yeah, I personally, if somebody's got a question and they don't want to wait for a meeting, they can ask me if I get elected to the board again. Send me an email. You know, I'll respond to you. You might not like what I say to you, but it'll be, I'm a straight shooter. I tell you the way it is, the way I feel it, put it that way. But communication is, I think, is the biggest thing. Transparency, communication. I don't want to repeat myself, so I yield to you. Doesn't repeat myself.
Vince, the question is, what do you feel is the most important issue facing Oyster Harbour and its residents?
I'm not going to argue with the 3 candidates to my right, but yeah, it's communication. Let's be real, it is. This board tries very hard to communicate with the residents. Some may believe that, some may not. But I do believe what we've done is give you as much information as we can regarding fishing ponds, regarding the boat ramp. We've given the community more information this year than any other board has given in recent history. We give you everything. We've given you the attorney reports. We give you engineer reports. As I said before, we're letting, not letting, but you can look at invoices, contracts, has been done before. So I think this board has stepped up and communicated. Maybe you don't want to hear what we're doing or understand, but we still have to work off of the three principles that we have as a business approach. That's a fiduciary responsibility, our real estate values, and insurance coverage. Those are the three things we must, as a board, go by. And I'm sorry, yes, we are gonna hurt feelings. We're not gonna make everyone happy. But what we've done this year is unprecedented as a board. Some may not believe it, but we've done it.
Okay, I think I'm done with my section of questions, so I think now is the appropriate time for a 10-minute break. And when the 10 minutes is over.
Another hour of this? Yeah.
Here we have somebody. Next number one.
We'll make it quick, Brian.
Thank you.
Take it down, Ron.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll excuse myself.
First question of the second half, we'll go to Larry. We'll be starting it out. I'll read the question to each one. So first question, Larry. How important do you feel it is to seek community input prior to making decisions that affect Oyster Harbour residents? Thank you very much for the question. I think we, at least I've answered this several times. It is absolutely essential. Period. It's a major topic that's affecting property owners, homeowners, lot owners. It doesn't matter. It needs to be at least made available to all of the property owners. Whether or not they choose to participate, respond, or whatever, and the answers to that, that's a different story. But it needs to at least be disseminated with ample time to consider it. And we also need to provide an opportunity for them to be able to provide cogent responses back. If it's something that's requiring presentations and briefings and background information to better explain this, that needs to be done in advance of that and made available to them, period. Because we're talking about people's lives, basically. This is our homes, or these are our lots, and they're very important. So, critical. Inclusion, participation, just has to be there. You back my time, whatever the time for is. Oh, okay, sorry. Sam, how important do you feel it is to seek community input prior to making decisions that affect Oyster Harbour residents?
Very important, because we're spending their money. You know, it's their HOA fees. So for us just to turn around and make decisions without asking for input, you know, whether it's for an amenity or it's for infrastructure or it's for putting in the floor in the, you know, I mean, it's very important that we get input from the community. And I don't want to repeat myself, so I do.
Vince, how important do you feel it is to seek community input prior to making decisions that affect Oyster Harbour residents?
Larry said, fantasy, very important. I feel we have as a community, or we have as a board communicated what we wanted to do in the last year. And as we move forward, we would do the same, continue to communicate with the residents on expenditures within the community. We've done it, we will continue to do it going forward.
I don't know if you spell.
Good, that thing, that's it.
Danny, how important do you feel it is to seek community input prior to making decisions that affect Oyster Harbour residents?
Yeah, I would agree with Larry that, you know, I think we've probably addressed it several times tonight, but it's imperative. There's absolutely no way that a board can react and know what's going on in the heartbeat of the community without talking to the people in the community before decisions made.
Next question. Start with Stan. How important is it to uphold the code of ethics, and how do you intend to honor the code when faced with differing opinions and or critical comments from residents and property owners?
It is very important when you become a board member, you sign a paper stating that you will uphold the code of ethics. All right? This is with the board is actually running a business. We're responsible for insurance, we're responsible for, you know, maintaining the different amenities, we're responsible for everything that goes on here. And that if you're running a business, you got to be able to have a business head where you're just gonna, you know, if something upsets you, you're just gonna have to take a little walk and make sure that you air it out amongst the trees. You know, you just can't, I ran a business. I ran my father's business for 12 years. You know, and there was time customers that just blew me away, but I had to walk away and go the other way. You know, you got to maintain that code of ethics. It's one thing that's, like I said, it's a paper that we all sign, and we're running a business, and you're not gonna please everybody. You know, that comes to your business, but you all live, you know, here, the business that we're running, you know, for you, put it that way. So it's very important that you will hold the code of ethics.
Vince. Yes. How important is it to uphold the code of ethics, and how do you intend to honor the code when faced with differing opinions and or critical comments from residents and property owners?
Once again, I'm going to be very honest. Upholding a code of ethics that I signed is very difficult. Very difficult. It's not a requirement of Oyster Harbour. It's a requirement of Waccamaw management. And as I say, I have thick skin, and this year has been a very, very challenging year to control myself. With some of the things I've heard, I've been called what has been done. It's very difficult for someone to call me a Nazi, a fascist, Putin, Trump, and not say anything. It is not fair. I don't mean fair. It's not right. I sign a code of ethics, but the residents do not. So they can say whatever they want to the board without repercussions, which is wrong. We're all here as neighbors who want to try to do the best. We are volunteers. We did not, as a board, initiate this type of language. We did not do it. It came from the outside in. It is wrong to have emails saying, it is wrong to put things in writing such as that. It is wrong to have someone go to my house and take a picture of my house and say, it's time.
Dan, how important is it to uphold the code of ethics, and how do you intend to honor the code when faced with differing opinions and or critical comments from residents and property owners?
It is absolutely critical to uphold the code of ethics. It's an entrusted, I repeat again, an entrusted place to be representing this community. All of us are human. I think the biggest thing that has to happen is personalities. It doesn't just happen over one time. It happens over multiple times. But somebody feeling they weren't heard or respected, and that becomes the major word. It's respect for each other. And if I can assure you that it's just the way I was brought up, that if there is a situation where there's a heated discussion, we're going to discuss it another time, so that everybody has an ability to come back and discuss that calmly, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. And it becomes a respect issue. And I promise you, with the code of ethics, I signed it to run for this position, and if I don't abide by it, you won't have to ask me to resign.
All right, Larry. How important is it to uphold the code of ethics, and how do you intend to honor the code when faced with differing opinions and or critical comments from residents and property owners?
For anyone who's read my bio, you'll see that almost all of my entire adult life, I've either been responsible for the oaths of office, oaths of enlistment, oath, whatever, and codes of ethics for probably 45 plus years. Codes of ethics and how you behave, whether you're in the military or you're a federal person, federal employee, are paramount. We have training on this every year. It is basically in my blood that I will uphold both my oaths and the code of ethics, period, whether I have to sign anything or not. If I feel that I've run afoul of those codes, or if any of you come forward and say, Larry, you really messed up on this, I'm out of here. That's pretty much just me. I can offer reasons why. I can say this or that, and I'm sure I'm elected to the board, the emails and the criticisms and the things are going to come to me just like they have everybody else. But having spent 30 years in the military and the job that I did in Homeland Security, it would be hard pressed to compete with some of the comments and things that have come to me in those capacities. And anybody who's ever been through military basic training, trust me, words don't hurt you. But codes of conduct, codes of ethics are very important. They're critical. That tells me that's who I am, whether I have to sign anything or not. And I hope to be the same person, whether I'm elected to the board or not. I hope I'm the same person out in the parking lot or in the driveway of my house, whether I am or not. I don't want to change. And I hope I'm not going to, do that if I become elected to the board. I want to stay the same person. If I can't, come to me and say, hey, you're messed up, I'll resign. Bring it on.
All right, question number 3. Then start with you with this question. Each BOD seems to believe that a 10% increase in annual dues is necessary and acceptable. If elected, what action will you take to explore ways to reduce HOA spending and therefore avoid having to automatically increase annual dues?
Into the near future, we're going to have to increase the dues at 10%. The amount of work we have to do, infrastructure, boat ramp, amenities, everything. It was brought up, strategic planning. It was brought up, we have to have a 5 to 10 year plan. We already have that in place. It's called the reserve study. Reserve study goes out 5 to 10 years. It prioritizes the things that need to be done. We're going to update that this year. But unfortunately, things are not getting cheaper. Inflation goes up, costs go up, and the board has done a great job controlling costs within our operating and contributing more to our reserve. So we're going to have to continue going forward with a 10% increase for the near future.
All right, Danny. Each BOD seems to believe that a 10% increase in annual dues is necessary and acceptable. If elected, what action would you take to explore ways to reduce HOA spending and therefore avoid having to automatically increase annual dues?
And Vince and Butch have a advantage to being able to go through and look at all the financial statements and where this is and a reserve study. A reserve study says how healthy your HOA is. Doesn't say anything about how healthy your community is. Doesn't say anything about where your system is, where your infrastructure is, where your docks are, where your boat ramp is. Those reserve studies say you got money, but they don't allocate that money and where it's going to go. So I can tell you that to me, the big thing is being able to take where we are and understand the funds that we've got and what we're faced with and be able to project that over a plan and come back and discuss it with all the members of this community and all the property owners and let them know what the numbers actually are before we go saying that I've got to have a 10% increase for the next 10 years. I don't know that's true. I know that past faults of not raising the dues have brought us to the place where we are now. So does that mean that we're not gonna have to have these? I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that it needs to be evaluated, and I think a strategic plan is not looking at a reserve study, it's looking at where we are today.
Larry? Each BOD seems to believe a 10% increase in annual dues is necessary and acceptable. If elected, what action would you take to explore ways to reduce HOA spending, and therefore avoid having to automatically increase annual dues?
I'm going to concur with what Danny said. Basically, I can't say as a candidate, I'm elected to the board, that I don't know. I mean, that's basically because I don't know where we are financially. I don't know where we are, all of the different priorities as we have applied to the amenities and infrastructure and these things. I think it would be foolish to say that we would go up or go down until we've got a baseline of where we are, and that would come with our strategic plan. To say one, to try to commit to an answer to this, it's just not sound. We really need to understand where we are before we can answer that question. And as someone who has 2 lots in here, it really is within my own interest to say, hey, because if we start increasing dues, that's twice as much for me. Some people own 3 lots. Well, that's 3 times as much. One of the things that I can only say is I will be a good steward of the monies. I will be a good steward of your positions on things, because I have a vested interest, just like you in this room and you out there in virtual land. We have to know where we are. We have to prioritize our needs over the next 5 to 10 years in a cogent strategic plan that is well thought out and is done by the experts within this community, and that we take to the community to get your buy-in, because that's what it's going to take. We have to have people saying, yes, we agree with this, this is the best option. Not everybody's going to, but that's the only way that we're going to have a sound future, in my opinion. So sorry, I can't answer this to probably your satisfaction, but that's the best I can do right now. Over to you.
Dan?
With the dues, according to the CCRs, most we can raise the dues is 10%. We can't go higher than that. All right. I can see us raising the dues to get to a point where we're financially situated and we got some of the infrastructure work done, the swales done, the stormwater runoff done, the dock out back done. The only other way we can take and do more is to take and do a special assessment, which I mentioned before. Nobody wants a $5,000 assessment on their house, especially on 1 of the 2 lots. I know I don't. But I can see for the next 5 years until we can get and like I said in the beginning, it's because we went so many years without ever raising the assessment. We let them go the same. And then now we're at the point where everything that we have here was built in 2000. So it's 22 years old, and that's why it's all falling apart. Regardless of if it's in ground, above the ground, or wherever it is. So, but I can, and I know the FPC has put together a plan they did years ago where, okay, the dock has to be done in so many years, or we're gonna have to do the roads in so many years, or, this needs to be replaced, a refrigerator, or whatever the heck it might be. And they projected what the cost might be and the timeline, why it's still working, why it's still good. The FPC has done an excellent job with that. But I can see a 10% increase for at least the next 5 years.
All right, next question. Annie, we'll start with you. What do you think are the top 3 priorities for the new board, and what are those in order?
Top 3 priorities. Financial responsibility back to the community, being able to understand where we've just discussed, what we have to do to be able to prepare for the future, to protect the amenities. And that means all amenities. That doesn't mean just tennis courts, swimming pool, boat around. We've got to realize that everyone that's listening to this or sitting here tonight has a vested interest in Falls for the reasons that we all knew of all the amenities. This community is second to none in the area in Brunswick County has more to offer than any other community. Has the nicest boat ramp and finger docks and water park of any community in this county, probably within 100 miles of here. So to me, that's the main priority. The third thing is obviously, if we, when I said my first priority, is we've got to address the roads and infrastructure. It's just got, we've got to look at financial responsibility is number one. Taking care of our amenities, which is why is the heartbeat of the community. And then absolutely looking at the infrastructure and protecting everything that supports all the other things.
Larry? What do you think are the top three priorities for the new board? And what are those priorities in the
First thing in my mind is the communication process, utilizing technology to bring us into the 21st century. Look at how we communicate both virtually, real time, just basically an overhaul of comms itself. How the board uses it to their advantage, how people in the community, the property owners, whether they're local here, across the country, it doesn't matter. How can we establish better communication flow and interaction flow? We need to be interactive to make better decisions. Second, a priority for me is the strategic plan. I keep talking about this. We absolutely, from a business perspective, need to put pen to paper and come up with a strategic plan that we could talk to, present to, and get opinions from every single property owner, whether they're in this room, they're in virtual land, or wherever. We need to be able to do that. Otherwise, you don't have a financial plan. I don't care what you say. How are you going to know where the money is coming from, what it's going to take to do if you don't know what your needs are? Third one is our amenities. Long since we've got wonderful, again, I'll say this, the backbone, I think, of our community are our volunteers and our committees out there. Structures and grounds, all of them. It doesn't matter, I've singled that one out. But all of them, everybody's doing yeoman's work. We've got large committees like structures and grounds. We've got a committee of one. Marty, she's a tree person. That's a one-person army right there, okay? The committees are the backbone of this community. And I think we need to start paying some attention to those things that each of those are responsible for, like our amenities. It's the trails, it's ponds, it's everything. So is it going to be a tough thing, tough road to hoe? Yes, it is. Those are my three priorities: comp, strat plan, and looking at the amenities. Kind of got you the bell.
All right, Stan, what do you think are the top three priorities for the new board? And what are those priorities in order?
First is financial, to build up the reserve. We got to build up the reserve. That's the most important thing. Secondly, would be communication. More transparency between the Oyster Harbour Board and the community. And third would be to see that our ongoing progress in maintaining and upgrading of Oyster Harbour amenities and common areas continue. But it would start out with the financial, building the reserve. And then transparency, communication, then, upgrading our amenities and making sure that they're up to par, put it that way.
All right, Vince, what do you think are the three top priorities for the new board, and what are those in order?
Well, using the three principles that we've talked about tonight: fiscal responsibility, real estate values, and insurance coverage. The three main priorities, which we know is replacement, complete replacement of the boat ramp within the next 5 to 7 years. Infrastructure repair. S&G has done a great job repairing some of our worst areas. We do have a roadmap. We've had a roadmap for at least 2 years now. It was put together by a couple of the S&G guys. So we know what direction we're going. Once you do your infrastructure, then you take care of your roads. But with the ramp itself, we need to work with FPC, Boats and Docks, management, and our engineer to receive accurate bids on this project. Receiving one bid cannot be allowed the next run through. We still need to require owner approval because of a large financing that may be needed. We need to increase our reserve funding every year from this point forward to try to make a cushion between your new bill of rent and what is taken out of the reserve. And I do feel that our attorney should have a complete review of our election process and voting procedures. It's something that is a long time, it's been a long time. We've been in the same situation with our voting procedures. Let's review it with our attorney. Let's see if we can simplify it as we go forward.
All right. Next question, we start with Larry. Actually, it's a two-parter. Please describe what a gated community means to you. The first question. And do you believe that during times when gates are disabled and left open, there should be any type of backup system in place to avoid unwanted access into the community?
Sort of a rhetorical question about the gated community. What does it mean to each of us? I think when you consider the gated community, you're looking at security. You're looking at a place where it's basically a little bit more difficult just to drive through. If you're not part of that community, you would expect a little bit nicer location, nicer homes, nicer amenities, a little bit of a notch up over those, maybe perhaps non-gated communities. I've lived in plenty of non-gated communities. I think I can say that, you know. But at the same time, I think it's an expectation of safety and security and the ability to have just a little bit nicer things in the way of amenities. And basically, you're able to get out and move around without too much risk involved. Whether you're walking, whether you're driving, whether you're riding the golf cart, it doesn't really matter. If the gates are open, I guess the question I would have is, why are they open? Why do they have to stay that way? I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I don't have the experience with the other board members who've had to deal with this problem. But I guess the question I would have is, why do they have to remain open? Why they cannot be repaired? Or is there not a backup system to these gate systems to where they have to remain open? I don't know. Broken? I mean, I just don't know the answer to that question. But to me, it would have to be extenuating circumstances that it would be left open and unmanned or unwatched for an extended period of time. I can see that if somebody takes the gates off the hinges. I can see that if there's a problem with the part breaking and there's a short period of time where you have to leave those that they're open, you can't maintain that security. But I think that would be an exception rather than the rule.
Stan, please describe what a gated community means to you. And do you believe that during times when gates are disabled and left open, there should be any type of backup system in place to avoid unwanted access into the community?
I bought here, well, my wife and I bought here because of the gates, being a gated community, and that at the time they had guards, which the hours they worked didn't make any sense to me at all. But I like the gates, I like the security, and being the liaison to S&G for the past 3 years, I know that if a gate is damaged by a vehicle coming in, a contractor, a tractor trailer, a delivery truck, or something like that, we have the cameras in there. I can go into the camera, I can find out who it is, get their plate number, get their tag number, get everything. We know who caused the damage. We build their insurance company. Now, we don't have a backup as far as extra gates sitting in the shed over there somewhere to go grab a gate and put it on. So the gates do have to be fabricated. But if a tractor trailer or a truck or a contractor or somebody comes in and does damage to the gates and knocks it off the hinges or makes it so it's inoperable, we should immediately call a guard company. Let the guard company come in and be here to watch and make sure who goes in and who doesn't go in. Because we can just pass that bill along for the guards to the insurance company. The insurance company's paying for the truck or the contractor who did the damage. Now, we got no gates, you're also gonna pay for our security. So there's no reason why we can't have guards come in if the gates are taken down. I mean, if the part breaks, we have an MA contract with the gate company. They'll get us parts like within 24 hours. You know, but if it's damaged due to negligence, somebody, whether it's you, me, or somebody else hitting it, knocking it off, pull the guard. The insurance company will pay for it.
Vince, please describe what a gated community means to you. And do you believe that during times when gates are disabled and left open, there should be any type of backup system in place to avoid unwanted access into the community?
I'll say first, we are a gated community. I took a lot of heat beginning of the year when I was asked by chairman to see what kind of study we can do about leaving the gates open during construction hours. And the board took a lot of heat for it. In those 2 weeks, we saw what was happening with construction outfits coming in, gates open, and we saw what it looked like when they were closed. When I first came here, I was concerned about security, what was going on in the outside of the community. After I started talking with law enforcement and understanding that we are one of the safest communities based on our location, dead end street, closed, one exit. We are a safe community. Doesn't mean we're opening the gates. The gates are going to stay closed from this point forward, as far as I'm concerned. We're not going to change that policy. But when it comes to damage to a gate, we've done everything possible. And I don't agree with Butch bringing in guards to allow people coming in and out. This community is safe. It will continue to be safe. Majority of the people in this community, whether you like to hear it or not, are armed. They have their weapons in their homes. I'm sorry. We're a safe community. The gates will remain closed. When there's damage, Butch has done a phenomenal job getting Caroline time in here to fix these gates. He will continue to do it.
Like, all right, Dan, same question to you. Please describe what a gated community means to you. And do you believe that during times when the gates are disabled and left open, there should be any type of backup system in place to avoid unwanted access into the community?
It's always been my belief that a gated community shows it as an upscale community. It represents the type of community that's there. It also represents security. You know, no different than when somebody tailgates behind me and goes in the gate. We're as safe as we make it. Okay. We've had a lot of controversy and a lot of conversations about the guards, no guards, kiosk, no kiosk. Well, I'll tell you, when there was a guard in the facility, nobody tailgated behind somebody going to the gate. 90% of that happens from contractors. The one that followed me was a tractor trailer, the one into the neighborhood. That didn't happen during working hours when we had guards present. But moving forward, I just say that, you know, I have my concern last year when this question came up was that by losing presence at the gate, you know, a lot of stuff, people said they were greeters, a lot of people said they did a security job. I think they did a combination of both. But I tell you that it was a persona that the community gave to the public. And if you represent that, that to me is what a gated community says, that they care about security and that they care about their community. To follow Butch's point, I got to tell you, I believe that we have a commitment to this community and to the owners that if we don't have a gate in place, it is an insurance responsibility. Whoever damaged the gate has a financial responsibility to this community. And I do believe they should hire a guard. I think it should be a 24/7 guard. Because we have no ability to close our gates anymore, we should still have the same.
All right. Be more quick. All right. Stan, this is another two-parter.
Do them both.
Should anyone be allowed to join any committee they choose? And do you believe committees should be encouraged and implemented?
Should anybody be allowed to join any committee that they want to? I had an incident recently with S&G, and even though I'm the liaison to S&G, I didn't just say, yes, 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 you can join. The S&G committee is a well-established, oiled machine. And even though there's only 4 of them, they do a great job. They did get back to me and tell me that they would like to have some younger blood join to take over, not the main things that they do now, like put the garbage out, and check the street lights and do that, but for larger projects as they come along, they would be members of the S&G. They could go to meetings, they would have their right to vote in an S&G meeting, the whole 9 yards. So yes, I do feel that we should take, we're always looking for volunteers, regardless of whether it's S&G or whoever it is. I think that we should, but it's not up to us just to say you and you are going to be on the social committee. You know, the social committee has to say, well, we could use more help, or we need more people. So that's the way that would work. What's the second part of that?
Do you believe committees should be encouraged and implemented?
Yeah, they should definitely be encouraged and implemented, because, you know, the volunteers, you can't fire a volunteer, you know, unless they do something extraordinarily, stupid. But volunteers are needed. Volunteers make the world go around. Time goes.
All right, Vince. Should anyone be allowed to join any committee they choose? And the second part, do you believe committees should be encouraged and implemented?
Of course, anybody that wants to be on a committee should be allowed to be on a committee. And committees that we have now should take the lead. Granted, ultimately, the final decision comes up to the board. And as we found out this year, we did have some friction within our committees. It's on board decisions, but yes, any volunteer that wants to join should. Committees should take the lead, come to the board. But ultimately, the board has to make that decision for the entire community.
Okay. Should anyone be allowed to join any committee they choose? And second question, do you believe committees should be encouraged and implemented?
There's no doubt that it's tragic to me that there's ever a thought of denying someone to be on the committee. If someone walks up and says, I'd love to be a part of the social committee, or I'd love to help Marty with the trees, which Marty obviously can use some that. I mean, to me, it's just tragic that you say a member of this community or a property owner wanted to serve and you told them no. So yes, communities should be the pulse of the board. The committee should be the pulse of the board. That should be where all the a lot of the information and feedback comes from what's needed in the community or the neighborhood. Do I think they're important? I think they're crucial to how the community survives and is perceived moving forward, especially as a communication process for the board.
All right. Larry? Should anyone be allowed to join any committee they choose? And secondly, do you believe committees should be encouraged and implemented?
Yes. Basically, yes, you go to that committee, you make your case to that committee chair and to the people in it. And the answer is yes to that. If they have issues with that, it's a recommendation to come back to the board. Yes, they want that person. No, they don't. But absolutely, they should have access to that committee. Second part to that is committees, as I've said before, are the backbone to this community. Not just the volunteers, but the work they do. It's just beyond amazing to me. But that said too, looking at our committee structure out there, one of the things that I hope to gain from this, been pretty narrowed, and I've been with boats and docks for the majority of my time since I've been here. And while I'm familiar with the other boards or the other committees, I'm not well versed in their day-to-day operation style stuff. If I'm elected to the board, I really look forward to working with the other board members to get a feel for the pulse of all the committees. Are these committees what we want, the board wants them to be? Are there better ways to improve these? And we bring them in to give them more autonomy with their liaison. I talked about information sharing and giving real-time updates on projects and things like that. I think that's a quality or a possible option if we get our technology where they needs to be, to where the committees themselves, the chairs of those committees, and the liaisons give updates. I don't know the rules and concerns of the business processes internal to the board. If I'm elected to that board, though, I'm going to ask the question: why would not a chairperson and a liaison have the authority to actually disseminate information on behalf of that committee? Why does it always have to come back to the board? I don't know if there's a restriction in place that prohibits that or not. I think a lot more autonomy for the liaison and the committees need to have.
Number 7, we start with Vince.
Yes.
Have you been on the board of directors for an HOA before? And secondly, do you view the board of directors as a governing or representative body?
Yes,
Obviously,
I've
you've
been on
a-
a HOA board before. Either governing body or
Do you view the board of directors as a governing or representative body?
we represent the community. We do listen to the community. But there are decisions that need to be made at the board level. And as I said before, we will not make everyone happy, but decisions need to be made for 471 owners. We do represent the community also, but it's important when you become a board member, when you're elected, you will sit down with management. Management will explain the principles as I discussed today, that we are responsible for 471 based on our responsibilities, which starts with the 3 principles as I talked about all night. We do have a reserve study that we follow. It is there. It is your guide for 5 to 7 years. We upgraded every 7. We're starting to do it again this year. But ultimately, some of the decisions have to be made at board level. You can see this year, we made some which has not made the community happy. But we're here to protect your investment, your assets. One lawsuit, you're done. We are done. That's the truth. I'm sorry, but some decisions are extremely hard to make. And we try. We try to do the right thing.
Danny? Have you been on the board of directors for an HOA before? And secondly, do you view the board of directors as a governing or representative body?
No, I have not been on a board for an HOA before. I've lived in a community with an HOA before and watched the actions of an HOA and how their function is. Do I believe that they are a governing or a representative position? It has to be a representative position. It's not. You can't look at me and ask me to be. I'm not a governing position. It's a entrusted position. You are asking me to go in and make the best decisions based on what I hear from every one of the 471 property owners and residents of this community. Absolutely not. Has to be representative.
Larry? Have you been on the board of directors for an HOA before? And secondly, do you view the board of directors as a governing or representative body?
Answer the first question is no, I have not. Answer the second question is absolutely it must, in my opinion, be a representative body versus the governing body. Representative body will reflect the pulse of the neighborhood. community, property owners, think that, we talk about making decisions. Decisions are not always the hardest thing to make. It's the cascading effects of those decisions that you have to deal with, really, where the problems come into. So when you make a decision, it needs to be thought out, unless it's an emergency, an urgent need for a decision, which I can make. I've made plenty of them before. But where due diligence is involved and you have the latitude to be able to take your time, step back from something and look at it from a holistic perspective, a whole community perspective. And when you can get input from not just this, but from this, why not? Why not take the time? Because those cascading effects will always be with you. Not all decisions are linear. It's not a thumbs up, a thumbs down, a yes or no. Absolutely not. Not always. So why not take the time if you have the ability to do that, especially when we're dealing with 471 property owners and couples out there. Why not take the time to do it right the first time? Some of the decisions made are not going to go away. If you're on one side, you say, yeah, I want to keep that decision. If you're on the other side, the answer is no. Well, if that's the situation you're going to get into, why did you not take the time in the first place to step back and say, let's look at the whole community, let's bring in a working group, let's bring in people to do this the right way, come up with a decision. At that point in time, when you're done and you come up with a hard decision, and you're not going to make everybody happy, they're going to make everybody, pleased with your decision. Well, why not go ahead and just do it right the first time? That way you don't have to go back to the rest of it.
Last one.
Thought that was.
Well, Stan's left. Obviously, have you been on the board of directors for NATO 84?
Just
And
for the past 3 years.
do you view the board of directors as a governing or representative body?
Representative body, but you have to get input from the amount of people that own property in here, how they want you to spend their money, or just give us ideas. So it's a representative. That's the way I feel about it. I don't want to repeat myself anymore, so.
So I want to say one thing real quick. I know Judy was thanked the nominating committee to begin with, but I would like, on behalf of the nominating committee, to thank Judy for organizing all the meetings. We have had many meetings and a lot of communication back and forth. So I want to thank you for that.
All right, well, that concludes our evening. As I said at the beginning, so ready to go.
I thought you dozed off over there.
In the same order we open.
Yes.
I think that it's important for everyone that's listening. Hopefully, the words are coming out that you're wanting to hear, and it's not promises, it's not empty speech, it's reality of the needs of this community. And to be entrusted as a representative for a board position in Oyster Harbour is a big deal. It's a big deal for a lot of investment for a lot of people, their homes, lots that are remaining to be built. There are so many things that we have to consider. I don't want to hammer the strategic plan that Larry's talking about, but it's so important. The one thing that's facing us is we all want to keep our amenities. We would love to grow our amenities. We love to see them better than they are. But there are so many ways to go about reaching our ultimate goal with the infrastructure, with our roads being part of that infrastructure, with the boat docks. It really made me think this year when the survey came out to us about the boat ramp. Golly, we've got an option. We repair it now for this amount of money, and thank goodness it came in the budget, thanks to a great group of guys working hard on that. But do we really know what the cost of repair is? We put a big number out there, but there are so many ways to go about finding a solution. Bruce and I and the committee group that talked about it. There are a lot of ways to be staggering these numbers. But given the opportunity, I've been in business for 45 years. I've had to manage mega budgets. This budget is just as important as a mega budget. And it should be given an opportunity to know what the true finances are, what the true ultimate 10-year plan could possibly be, whether it's a 2-year plan, a 5-year plan to go to a 10-year plan. I've seen 10-year plans go out the window in 2 days. But the reality is of knowing the numbers, getting the correct information back to you as property owners and letting you know what the facts are moving forward. I truly believe that's the first job for the new board coming in, is to let you know where we really truly stand. And it's not just about $1.1 million. I mean, we have receivables coming in, and I'm just sitting here doing my quick math. Give me 471 property owners at $1,500. We're taking in $636,000 plus a year. If we can't manage that money to be ready to move forward over the next few years, I know what it takes to run it. We see our budget of what it takes to run this community. Come on, folks, we got to get together. We got to be able to be on one page to know where we're at. And if you'll entrust me for that, that's why I'm here tonight. To earn your trust. So.
You got 5 minutes.
I yield my remaining time to Larry.
It's not gonna take me 5 minutes. We've gone through these questions. I think everyone has done their best to give the best answer possible according to the user perspective. And I think you guys got a pretty good handle on where I stand on things, so I'm not going to repeat it to vote much. I would appreciate your vote. You know where I stand on these issues. I will do my best. The only thing I can really promise you that I will give you the best that I possibly can. I will give you my time and my energy and my effort. I enjoy working with people. I would enjoy working with many members of the board. I enjoy problem solving. I enjoy looking at things strategically. I like the back of those things, and that's just not buzzwords, because I want to put actions to all of those things. That's the bottom line of this stuff. Because quite frankly, there's a flagpole down in the front of our yard down there. This is my end place. This is where I'm going to be. So I have a vested interest in this place. Whether or not we agree or disagree, that's okay. But this is my home, and I want to make it the best as I possibly can. I would appreciate your vote. And I will be a good steward of your money and your trust, and I hope to earn your respect. And if you don't like the job I'm doing, like I said before, just let me know. I'll turn in my resignation to the rest of the board members and say, I think I'm going to go enjoy that new pool we just finally got in. I yield back my time, Madam Chairman.
All right, Stan.
Thank you all for coming. I think you know what I've done for the past 3 years. I can emphasize again, if I get elected to the board, I'm going to push for monthly meetings, which is something that we had up until 4 years ago. All right. I also would like to emphasize to people, when the minutes of the board meeting minutes come out, read them. Okay, because a lot of times you'll get something from the board that says BOD approved. All right, but it had to be voted on. All right. There are some items over the past 3 years, I'm not saying which they were, but there were some items that the motion was made, seconded, blah, 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 and Stan Goodzik voted no. But that doesn't come out when you get an email blast or when you get a notice from the board. All right. I'm only talking about myself, I'm not talking about anybody else. And in order for something to pass, you need 3 out of 5 people to pass it. So everybody on the board, that's 20%. So 3 to 60, it passes. But read your minutes of your meetings, read your president's report. And again, the communication has to be opened up. And like I said, if I get elected to the board and you have a question, you don't want to wait till the next board meeting, shoot me an email. My email address is out there. You can read it. And I think I've done myself good. Thank you.
Well, he said, without a doubt, It's been a very challenging year for this board. Should be understood, we're still volunteers. We make very difficult decisions. I would like to correct just a couple of things that were said at this table tonight. Our budget exceeds 700,000. Our outlook, as I said, a reserve study goes 5 to 10 years out. Now, we do have plans in place. It's on the website. Take a look at your financials, see where we stand. This board has done a phenomenal job trying to control your money, and put as much away as possible for the future. Control your costs. Guards was brought up today. Not feasible. We're looking at 50 to 75,000 minimum, 50 up to 75,000 if you want a guard. We can't afford it. 10% increase. I'm sorry, it will be there. It has to be there. I'm telling you the truth. I know it's hard to digest all of this, but as a board member who's dedicated to this community, such as I am, and the other 4 that I've worked with for the last year, we really care about this community, and we are trying to do our best. Some find it very difficult, the decisions we make. I'm sorry. That's all I can really say. We have done everything beyond what any other board has done, giving you information. But maybe it's too much information. I don't know, but we try. And I would like to try for another 3 years. Some may not want to see me there, but I am dedicated to this community. I'm dedicated to seeing this community continue to grow, working with the Army, FPC, committees. We're not going to get along 100% of the time. It's important the new candidates look over our financials, understand where we are. The time commitment is 30+ hours a week, needs to be understood. You're on call day and night. You're not immune to attacks from either side. It's going to happen. It's tough. It's a tough position. A lot of people don't want to do this. I will take this on. There are very good people in this community. Last thing I can say is I wish everyone here best of luck. I will pray for you if you are elected. I promise you I will, because it's a very difficult position. And these are all good people here. I want to thank the board that I've been working with for the last year. They are exceptional people, solid people. That's you too, Butch. Yeah. So, thank you.
Good luck, buddy. Yeah, good luck, buddy.